The action begins with the skater standing on the walkway outside the rink waiting for the proper time to enter the ice. They would be working to maintain their balance by keeping their center of gravity within the base of the support. Because the skater is wearing skates, this base of support would be narrowed to the area of the skate blades. The transition from the outside of the rink onto the ice itself will change the stability of the task at hand. The ice creates a moving base of support due to its slippery nature. The primary motor cortex allows him to skate on unstable terrain like ice and is influenced by both cortical and subcortical input. The primary motor cortex connects to alpha motor neurons in spinal cord through the cortical spinal tract, which then activates the limbs necessary for the skating movement. To initiate skating movement, which is similar to walking, the motor loop of the basal ganglia will activate. The mesocephalic motor region also aids in walking or gliding movement of skating by stimulating the CPGs in the spinal cord. Activity in the CPGs will generate rhythmic bursts of activity in hip flexor and extensor motor neurons to form locomotion in the tandem pattern that we naturally perform. The signal to the CPGs from muscle spindles causes a positive feedback loop with the extensor muscles of one leg to keep them activated while inhibiting the extensor muscles of the other leg. Locomotion is not isolated to just the activity of the mesolar and CPGs. Hip proprioception, load information, muscle spindles, joint receptors, and GTOs all contribute to the control of step cycle as well. To avoid falling, the premotor cortex will work together with the basal ganglia and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to select the correct movement trajectory of the leg as needed. As the 1A afferents detect the sudden changes in muscle length caused by instability, the stretch reflex will be triggered to help regulate muscle activity and maintain the desired muscle length. Due to the slippery or moving base of support, the center of pressure may be adjusted to keep the center of mass within the base of support if necessary. The vestibular system plays a major role to further increase stability on the ice. In order to stabilize the head in space, the otolith organs detect acceleration in the horizontal and vertical plane when the skater jumps or glides. The semicircular canals are responsible for detecting angular head acceleration during turns or as the skater makes his way around the rink. Hair cells in the vestibular apparatus bend as movements are made. This information about the head acceleration is then relayed to the CNS to determine the appropriate movement and body orientation. The vestibular system also works closely with the visual system to know where the person wants to skate to while keeping upright. Together, they create the vestibular ocular reflex, which is used to compensate for any extra head movements that can disrupt balance. This allows for the subject's eyes to scan or fixate on specific areas that are important for knowing the directions to skate and how to land. While he's skating forward to get ready for the jump off the ice that he has practiced so hard to perfect, our skater visually plans a path for where to jump as well as where to land. First, the rods and cones that line the retina at the back of the eye will transduce the light energy into an electrical signal. Cones make up the fovea and have the highest acuity. Rods are not found in the fovea but provide information from the peripheral visual field. The electrical signal will propagate down the optical nerve, crossing the optic chiasm, going further down the optic tract, and finally to the primary visual cortex. The ventral visual stream will help him identify the environmental details such as the people in the stands and recognizing the ridges and rough patches on the ice from other skaters. The dorsal visual stream provides information on where things are in relation to the skater to help guide his movement and avoid obstacles. The ocular loop, controlled by the basal ganglia, allows a skater to guide and couple his eye and head movements in order to form a holistic view of his surroundings using central visual field. Vision can also be used to locate limb positions, such as when he lifts his arms up right before the jump. Lucky for him, it's not necessary to always look at his limbs to check his position, because dynamic 1A afferents of the muscle spindle send signals to cerebellum via the spinocerebellar tract when detecting changes in muscle length. Gamma motor neurons increase sensitivity of muscle spindles to changes in muscle length. Static group 2 afferents of the muscle spindles also detect static muscle length, such as when the skater is in his resting position off the ice before he enters the rink. The pressure from the skates will be sensed by the Merkel disc cutaneous receptors on the bottom of his feet. Additionally, the 1B afferents of the GTO sense tension or force changes in muscle and body load information as the skater glides from one leg to the other. Joint receptors will also fire to contribute to the perception of his movement on the ice and will also prevent him from overextending in case he ever miscalculates a movement. As the skater enters the ice, they must take in their surroundings, identifying where the judges are and how far away from the sideboards they are. This is done through binocular retinal disparity. The ventral stream connecting V1 with the temporal lobe will allow for identification of each judge. Within the temporal lobe is the middle temporal region, which is neurons that fire preferentially to motion and direction. The MT projects to the MST. As the skater begins to prepare for the jump, the MST will allow for determination of heading direction. Optic flow allows a skater to understand the position of their limbs in self-motion as they go into the jump and as well as in the air to allow them to stay stable and upright. It will also help them to determine their timing to touch back down on the ice. Environmental features also play a role in the skater's performance. Regulatory features that may affect his balance on the ice and his skating trajectory can arise from extra slippery or rough patches of ice or how uncomfortable the pressure from the tied skates are around his ankles. Non-regulatory features can include the temperature of the ice rink, and if the rink is too cold, his muscles may get stiff. Brightness of the lights and distractions from the crowd may also deter his focus and influence his performance. As a figure skater, performing movements may seem simple, but there's more to it than that. Our skater could be feeling anxious, nervous, or excited to perform. The motivation to perform well and receive a high score from the judges will also influence how he performs. All these emotions are related to the limbic loop that runs through the basal ganglia. Responsibility of planning the jump is given to the PPC. The PPC is involved in several aspects of movement. It uses sensory information to plan the movement and maintain spatial working memory. The parietal eye and arm fields provide retinotopic information and the region of space that they can reach, respectively. This is important for when the skater goes to jump, as they will need to guide their arm movements to propel themselves forward and to maintain stability in the air. Before a movement is initiated, PPC activity increases in response to motor planning. Supplementary motor areas will work to select movement sequences based on internal cues such as memory. Repetition of the movement will work to consolidate the memory of the sequence of movements leading up to the jump, within the jump, and the landing of the jump. The timing of the movements will also be determined by the prefrontal loop, which connects the basal ganglia to the prefrontal cortex dorsolaterally. At takeoff of the jump, the cerebellum receives a copy of the predicted sensory feedback from the CPG. If the skater lands properly, the efference copy provided to the cerebellum and the actual feedback will match. However, if these two copies will not match, the cerebellum will work to figure out what happened and how to correct it. As you can see, performing a seemingly small task is both controlled and influenced by so many factors, and that's what makes a human body so incredible. Thanks for watching!